Hello and welcome to Let's Play Siege of Avalon. This is a computer RPG developed quite some years ago by a company called Digital Tome. Neither the company nor the game are particularly well known, but that makes it an excellent candidate for doing an LP. We're going to go ahead and start by selecting a new game, and that brings us up to the character creation screen. The only important choice on this screen, however, is to select our training style, which is essentially the character's starting class. There are three choices to choose from: the fighter, the scout, and the magician. Each of those do exactly what their name implies. The fighter is probably the most difficult to complete the game with, and the magician is probably the easiest, so we're going to be picking that one. Everything else is fairly unimportant, but we had best fill it out anyway. One thing to note about the game is that it has a very dynamic inventory system, which means that each and every item we equip will change our character's appearance, except for small things like rings and other miscellaneous items, but pants and boots and cloaks and everything like that will change what our character looks like. That's probably one of the most interesting things about the game. Another interesting thing about the game is how very buggy it is. An important thing to remember when playing this is to save often and to use different save files every time you save. For the purposes of this LP, that won't be a problem, as I'll be creating a new save file at the end of every video, and since YouTube only allows 10-minute segments, that's going to mean there's going to be a lot of videos, but that shouldn't be a problem. The only other thing on this character screen is the character beginning stats. If you noticed that when we changed our class, the beginning stats changed a little bit to better reflect that particular class. With the magician, we have a very high mysticism, which is probably the most important statistic for the class. It affects quite a number of things, like the damage their spells do and their mana recharge rate. There's quite a number of primary statistics in the game. We won't go through all of them right now. We'll learn them as we go along. Another important statistic is our training point score. We gain more training points as we complete quests and defeat enemies, and we can invest them into these stats as we go along. There isn't any level up system in the game. There's only training points, so those are very important. We'll be collecting a few hundred of those before the game is over, almost 1,000, but not quite, I don't think. Anyway, that's all there is to see here, so we'll continue on to the game. This brings us to an orbiting screen with the first few pages of our journal. One thing to keep in mind is that this game is meant to be an anthology, which basically implies that the character's journal is sort of a book that is read later on. And what this entry here is telling us is that we are just moving to a castle called Avalon, which is the center of the story. It's a fortress made by a group of kingdoms known as the Seven Kingdoms, who are currently being threatened by a horde of marauding barbarians in a very Lord of the Rings style fantasy storyline. And we're here to meet our brother Corvus, who is enlisted in the military here. And as soon as we entered into the game, we find that we're in a conversation with our brother Corvus. And he discusses a few things with us. He says how he is to set out immediately on a raid with a man named General Overon, who will be very important to the story. So keep that in mind, General Overon. You asked to come along, being the little brother, but he says you have to stay behind and enlist in the military, which I suppose is fair, and being the eager little man you are, you decide to follow your older brother's wishes and go along and join the military here in Avalon. He mentions a man named General Roth, who is also very important. We'll be keeping an eye on him as the story progresses. And after explaining a few things, like to report to the quartermaster, he sets off on his way to go fight the good fight. This gives us control of our character for the first time. And what we'll be doing now is just going over the basics of our character. First is the character statistics screen. Here we see our training points again in our primary statistics. Here we can increase them or decrease them as we see fit. Once we leave the screen, any changes we made become permanent, so we have to be careful when you're doing that. We also see our secondary statistics here. There's quite a number of them. These are derived from our primary statistics, as well as any items that we might have. We also have our resistance modifiers. The first number indicates the first row of numbers or the first column of numbers indicates the total flat reduction to any damage we take, and the second number indicates the percentage reduction to any damage we take. As you can see, these aren't very high, we're rather fragile right now. We don't have very good armor or anything to that effect, so we'll have to work on that later. Though of course we are a mage, so we'll mostly be killing things before they have a chance to hit us anyway. And this is our damage we do with our basic attack with whatever weapon we have equipped. We don't have a weapon equipped, so hitting someone with our bare fist deals 0 to 1 crushing damage, which is not terribly impressive, but I suppose we can always improve that later. Of course, this doesn't actually show the damage we deal with our spells, which is where most of our damage will be coming from, so this particular column isn't really important to us. Next is our mana indicator. This is what we use to cast spells. This is our health indicator. Both of these recharge on their own, and the rate of recharge is dependent on how good our relevant stats are. This is our inventory screen. As you can see, we have a very large number of equipment slots. Those of you used to games like Diablo 2 will probably be familiar with this sort of setup, but we have a very large number of inventory slots to customize our equipment. If you right-click on an item, you find the information relevant to that item. This is a commission letter for the quartermaster given to us by our brother. Right-clicking on this shirt gives us its statistics. It has, as you can see, it has one restriction, which restriction being a statistic relevant to how much we are encumbered by our equipment. It also has a number of resistance modifiers. It gives us 1% resistance to piercing, crushing, and cutting damage, which isn't particularly impressive, but I suppose we'll have to do for now. Up here is a number of crowns we have. These are gold crowns. It's the currency system of the game. This isn't really that important. After the first or second act, you don't really find any new merchants, and after which you don't really care about buying items or selling items or anything like that. The only items of significance we found in the field. Next on the screen is the map screen. Castle of Avalon is automatically mapped for us. As you can see, we're in Outer Keep level 2 right now. And this little red dot right here is us. That will move around wherever we go. Once we go abroad and start exploring the wilderness and behind enemy lines, we'll have to map the area out ourselves. It won't come pre-mapped like this. We also have a quest log, an adventure log, and our journal, as you've already seen. And this is a message field. This isn't really that important. It shows the occasional message, but we don't really need to pay much attention to that. Here's where we can select our spells. We only know one spell right now. It's the most basic spell in the game. It's called Charge. It does 1 to 2 electrical damage and 0 to 1 heat damage, which isn't very impressive. Its damage will go up once we invest points into mysticism, but it will never really be of significance. It's about as impressive as it looks, which is to say not very. This is the party roster. You can have up to 2 other members in your party. I don't know if we'll be getting a party in this game, mostly because a magician tends to throw around giant fireballs, which tend to hurt your party and kill them, and there's no way to recover a dead party member. Once he's dead, and you just have to shrug your shoulders and move on. So we probably won't be getting a party with the mage, and the mage is so powerful that he doesn't really need one anyway. So, no big loss. These 2 slots are where our 2 party members would appear if we had any. But anyway, that's the gist of the game. We'll be starting our adventures for the next video, and hopefully we won't have too much trouble. See you then.